So welcome again. Let's start our session today. So let me first introduce myself quickly. So I am Samrajesh Mault. You can call me Sam. I am the academic director for technology and innovation domain. I did my PhD from Bardiyar University, and I have around 25 years experience in this field of IT. And currently, I'm teaching a cybersecurity course here in McGill School of Continuing Studies. Apart from that, I'm also involved with cloud security program, which is part of the National Cybersecurity Consortium. So nice to have you all. So before we start, I just want to put a poll. So this poll is basically having a question which says, have you read about cybersecurity breaches recently? And are you concerned about that? So you can see that poll popping up in your screen. So it is anonymous, no names, nothing is recorded. So you can just share your thoughts. Oh, okay, good. Yes, we have 86%. Yes, that's great. Okay, so that's a majority are saying yes. So now, as you know that when there is a cybersecurity breach in different organization or in different parts of the world, that also affects us. Just an example, imagine your profile in Amazon and you have your payment card details and all this stuff stored in your profile inside Amazon, and imagine there is a breach and all your data are at stake. So in today's digital world, when there is a cybersecurity incident in any part of the world, indirectly or directly, that has some connection to us. So we are all worried about that. We are concerned about that. So that is what here we see um, quote by Thomas Reid in his essay. He says that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. As you know, in today's world, we have very complex systems. We have a lot of systems that are inside the organizations that are working to fulfill the business objective. Apart from that, there are systems that are part of cloud, and there are a lot of other applications that are communicating between these systems that are from different continents or different parts of the globe. So if there is a cybersecurity incident in a particular part, that has an impact elsewhere. So here in an organization, when you say that we have a secure systems and all these applications are secure, but if there is an entry point, like imagine an employee has a mobile phone and that mobile phone has a malware. So through that particular mobile phone, an cybersecurity incident can start. So so similar to what we see here, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. In an organization, everything needs to be secure. So if there is an entry point where an organization's systems can be compromised, that has an impact in the overall system. So in today's session, we are going to look into the essential cybersecurity standards and framework. We're not going to cover all the standards and frameworks because they are going to be lengthy, and yes, we have around 45 minutes to talk. And then we'll talk about how you can protect your organization from this evolving cyber threat. And then finally, we will conclude. So first, again, we are going back to again one more poll where I'm going to ask you a question, which is when you think about cyber security, what comes to your mind? So let me open the poll. When you think about cyber security standards and frameworks and regulatory requirement, what keyword that comes in your mind? You may think about many things, but just key in, what comes to your mind first when you talk about cybersecurity standards and frameworks? Okay, so whatever comes to your mind, you can just post it. Oh, okay, ISO, that's great. Data, okay, NIST, hackers, oh, that's good. Redundancy, yeah, that's good. You need to have systems that are failure proof. So when one fails, you have another system that is going to be still taking over. Then what else we have? Okay, compliance. Okay, so that is a great term, because when you talk about all these standards and framework, if nobody is going to follow that, nobody is going to comply to that, then there is an issue. Then we have firewalls. Yeah, so firewalls protects organization, hackers, OWASP. Okay, that's good. Prevention, yes. As you know, that prevention is better than cure. So preventing an attack is more easier than solving it or recovering it from that particular incident. So it's great to have all these keywords, protection, and okay, that's great. So without much time, I'm going to move on, and let's look into some of the standards and frameworks which are basically used in the cybersecurity world. So the first is we are going to talk about ISO 27002 and 1. So as some of you might know, ISO is an international standard for organization for standards. It's based in Switzerland, and they are not only doing standards for cybersecurity, they are having standards for a lot of management systems and all organization processes. So this particular standard, that is ISO 27001 and 27002, basically focuses on cybersecurity. And this is done in collaboration with IEC. So this is again an standards organization that is again based in Switzerland. It's for electrical, electronics, and related technologies. And as you know, that computer is an electronic device. So this all started in 1995 when British standard. So initially this ISO 27002 was again part of another standard, that is British standard, that is called BS 7799. So later on, that got renamed like in around 2000 into ISO 17799, and later on you can see that today we have the latest version of ISO, that is ISO 27001 and 27002 2022. So currently the latest version that is available in the industry is the 2022 version. And in organization, when you look at organizations, there are other version, that the previous version also is available. Basically, that is called 2023, so 2013. It is like 12 years before that version was released. And in 2022, the current version which we are following now has been released. So organizations that were certified in 2013 have time until October 31, that is this year, October 2025, to migrate, to switch over to the new standard. So this is just for your information. And when you look into ISO 27001 2022, it has lots of controls. So these controls are categorized into 4 themes. Okay, so they are categorized into 4 themes, and those themes are basically listed here. You can see that one is the organizational control, then we have the people's control, then we have the physical control and technological control. So in an organization, when you look at the organization has a vision, mission, and they have their management objectives, their strategic plan. So all these things are basically focused on the organization controls, and there are people who manage the organization. So there are controls that are connected to people that is there in people's control. Then we have physical control. So as you know that the systems, the servers, the firewall, the routers, the network devices, and all these things are in a particular room, and these rooms and systems needs to be physically secure. So there are a lot of controls connected to that, and they are coming under that particular theme called physical control. And then we have technological control. So there are detailed controls for all these particular themes. So since we have a limited time, I'll be just giving you an idea about the technological control. So this technological control, or the theme, technological control theme, has 34 sub controls inside that. So they are focused on various aspects of the cybersecurity. And again, a note regarding your questions. So if you have any questions, you can always put in the chat. And the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be having a discussion. So at that particular time, we will be discussing more about that. And again, this particular talk is part of one of the course which I'm teaching in Applied Cybersecurity program. So there, basically, it will be discussed in detail, but here I'm giving you the key aspects that are in that particular standard. So here, when you look at the technological controls, so you have systems and application control. So how you're going to design plans and how you're going to design policies. So here, let me ask you one more question. Can anybody, or when you talk about cybersecurity, what is ISMS? Okay, what is ISMS? You can put in the chat. What is ISMS? You can try. Okay, when you talk about information security or cyber security, what is ISMS? No answer? You can try. Even though it's wrong, you can put in the chat your answers, your feedback, what you think about what ISMS is. You can Google it and find out also and share. Okay. Information Security Management System. Very good, very good. Correct. So thank you, Sylvie. And we have a lot of answers from Kial, okay, Claudia, Natu, Jesus. Very good. Okay, you can't. Okay, so anyway, some can't see what I typed. It means okay. Anyway, I asked what is ISMS, and we got a lot of answers. Thank you very much for all of you. So it's called Information Security Management System. So if you look at an organization, the organization has to design their policies. That is called the Information Security Management System policy document. So you go to any big companies or small companies or even medium companies, because in today's world, everything is working on the digital world, right? It is everything is connected. So they need to have a policy that is called ISMS. So how you can prepare that ISMS for your company? So you can prepare that by referring to these standards. So one of that standard is this ISO 27001 and 2, which we are just discussing. So here we have this technology controls, and then we are having, say, operational procedures. And earlier, when we talked about keywords, I had one keyword which was talking about redundancy. That is how you're going to have duplication in your system, how you can have your database duplicated, or you can have a copy of the database elsewhere, how you can have your systems itself backed in multiple locations. So like even some critical systems like banking systems have multiple failovers. They call it as a failover. So there are redundant servers. Like there will be the primary server, to which everything will be connected. If that fails, then you have a failover server that will have another failover. So in some very mission critical system, there will be like around 10 failover systems. And again, all will not be in one place. It will be distributed in different parts of the globe. Again, depending upon the regulations and laws, it may be again within a country, but in different locations. Redundancy. So again, you need to have a policy on that. What plans you have, how you're going to have this redundancy, for what you're going to have, which are the critical applications, which are the critical data in your organization that needs to be replicated or duplicated, and where you're going to keep it. And again, see, when you talk about cybersecurity, the security aspect of this also is very important. Why? The reason is because you may be concerned about only the primary system. But in a cybersecurity world, you need to be concerned about all the backups and redundant systems also. That must also have the equal amount of security settings. Because in case there is a failure, that also must not fail. There must not be an attacker who is taking advantage of that situation and getting access into the system. So all these systems has to be protected from malware. Then you have the vulnerability management assessment, how frequent you're going to do vulnerability assessment. So recently, I read a report which was talking about having backups, and they said having regular backups, having adequate backups. So these are not good policies, because having regular is not defined. Having backups adequately is not defined. So you need to define it properly. What is the interval you're going to have backups? Whether you're going to have a monthly backup, a weekly backup, or hourly backup, or a minute by minute backup. For critical system, maybe you can have a live backup. That is, when you save something, it's going to be stored in 10 locations, so that nothing is getting lost if there is an attack. So all these things depends upon the organization's policy. And who designs the policy? Cybersecurity experts. You and me are the persons who are getting involved in designing that. Now, how you can design a better system, better policy? By referring to the standards and learning about the things that are going on in different organizations, evolving threats that are happening in the world, being aware of the latest things that are going on. So here, again, we have the cryptography about how you're going to encrypt the data. So all these stuff are discussed in this particular controls. So next control, what we are going to see is the NIST cybersecurity framework. So when you look at ISO, it's a standard. So the standard means it's like they are given a standard, and you have a minimum standard, like you need to fulfill to say that you are fulfilling that, or you are compliant to that. Now, when you talk about NIST, it's not a standard, it's a framework. So it's basically a guidelines which an organization can use to improve their cybersecurity posture. They can improve their cybersecurity systems, the processes. They can use this framework to fine-tune their information security management system policy document. So here we have different functions inside this. We'll be seeing that in the next slide. So using these functions, you will be able to design your cybersecurity policies in an organization in an effective manner. So this particular framework can also be used in reducing risks, because when you, for an example, when you talk about an analogy, when you take an insurance, okay, when you take insurance for your house, what happens is it's not that the insurance company will just give you the insurance policy and say, okay, if there's a fire, we will cover it. No, we are going to have a inspection to your house to make sure that you maintain the minimum requirement, so that in case there is a fire, you have some remedies that can be done, so that there is no loss of not apart from that, you're going to have loss. Apart from that, the insurance company also will be in loss when they have to pay for that particular fire incident. So they make an inspection and they see, they check whether there's a fire extinguisher, whether you are like recently I heard about my friend telling if you have a heater that is very old, you're supposed to change. You can't keep the old heater because there is a risk associated to that heater. So similarly, when you talk about the risk in an organization, that has to be studied. And when there is a attack happening in an organization, the fines and the reputation loss and the financial loss can be used. However, if there is a proper risk assessment and if you are applying these standards, you'll be able to address those risks at the beginning itself. So that is what this particular framework helps you in preparing a good information security management system policy document. So in NIST cybersecurity framework, we have lots of it's actually like if you look at the previous slide, you can see that here you have the identity. Okay, you identify the assets. Then you protect the assets of an organization. Okay, so this is like prevention. Now, imagine you did all these things, but there is an intruder, an attacker who has come into your organization. So in that case, you must be able to detect it at least before there is a damage. So detect also plays an important role. Okay, now imagine you are able to you are not able to identify it, you are not able to protect it, you are not able to detect it. At least you must be able to recover. Okay, so if you would have been able to detect it, you would have blocked it, right? But now imagine a situation where you are not able to detect it. Now, at least you can respond to that attack and then recover from that. So this particular stages or functions are very important. And now, when you look at the NIST Cybersecurity 2.0, this govern is in the middle. That means govern is connected to all the functions that are there in an organization, because the management plays an important role in taking care of all the information security aspects of an organization. So here, go to the next slide. Here you can see that there is this functions that we talked about, and each functions has different categories. And those categories are again divided into subcategories. So you can see here there are 6 functions, and then there are 22 categories for each functions, and there are 106 subcategories, which basically gives you the complete picture of NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. So you can go to the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. There is a NIST. You can search, and there are links in the slide also at the end. So you can go to that. You can just Google and find out. So this NIST Cybersecurity Framework is free, and you can download the document and you can go through that. However, an ISO 27002, you need to purchase that document to get a complete idea about what is there in that particular standard. Now, moving on, we are going to the next standard. So this is a standard that is called PCI DSS, and it is designed by payment card industry group. So earlier, when you look at some years back, when there was no PCI DSS, or we can say that there was no Security Standard Council, which actually designed this particular standard. There you have you had different card companies, like you have the Visa, MasterCard, having their own policies and standards. So there were a lot of confusions, and the industry was not doing well. There were various incidents of hacking that were happening. So the major card companies, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and the Japan Credit Bureau card, they came together and they found this council called PCI SSC, and then they designed a standard, okay, that is called the PCI-DSS. So this PCI-DSS has again certain requirements. So it's called the PCI Data Security Standard, DSS. So this has like 12 requirements you can see here, and they are having different goals. So they are classified into different goals. You can see that build and maintain a secure network, and instead that it's focused on having firewall, it's focused on having proper passwords so that your organization can be secure. Then you have vulnerability management, you have control measures, how you're going to monitor the network and maintain the security of the system. So this PCI DSS is applicable for organizations who are actually involved in payment card. Like if you, any website, in case they have a payment gateway, then they need to have this particular standard implemented. And again, if you have a small business and you're having a point of sale from a particular bank, and then you need to go through this particular standard. And again, for a large organization, depending upon their volume of transactions, there are various levels. They call this various tiers, which the organization has to undergo. They'll have inspections, auditing that are being done. So later on in the how part of that, we will quickly talk about that. So now again, when you talk about PCI DSS, the current version is 4.0. So this also can be compared and mapped to ISO, and also it can be mapped to NIST cybersecurity standard. So here, for an example, I have just given you one particular slide, one particular instance where in PCI DSS we have an statement which says storage of account data is kept to a minimum. Okay, so imagine a person is paying through his card in your business or in your organization. You don't want to take the address of from the customer from the card, okay, or you don't want to gather lots of information from the card which is not relevant to the transaction. So you need to take the card number, of course, and then the code number which is there in the back of the card, and in a digital card that is read automatically. So this minimum information. Why? Because even though if there is a data breach, then you're not losing a lot of information, you're losing minimum. So the standard still says you get only limited information. Okay, and then if you look at the ISO, so there is a thing called information deletion. Like you gather information and how long you're going to maintain it, then whether you're going to keep it for like a year or a few minutes or a few seconds. So that again is defined in this particular standard. Now again, when you talk about the details of a customer in a card, how you're going to store it? You need to encrypt it. So that is defined by PCI DSS. Similarly, when you look at ISO, there is data masking, where any critical information, any confidential information must not be stored in plain text. It has to be encrypted and stored, so that in case an attacker has access to that particular information, still he is not able to decrypt it, or he is not able to read that particular data. So in this way, you can think about mapping different standards and controls, so that in an organization, when you have a lot of things going on, like in a big organization, there may be payment going on, there may be a lot of other critical things like confidential information. So then we talk about the privacy of the data. So that is where we come to this particular regulation. So this is also again a data regulation, we can say a law, a framework, but when you say it's a law or act, it needs to be followed. There's no option. Like for example, this GDPR, this is called the General Data Protection Regulation. So this is applicable for any businesses in Europe. Plus, if a company is in Quebec but having a European customer, then again the GDPR is applied to them. So in any way, Like if you are having an office in Europe and if your company is doing business there, of course you need to have. Apart from that, if any of the customer is connected to or their address is in Europe, then GDPR applies to you. So imagine there's a company in Quebec and they are manufacturing certain aircraft parts and they are selling to customers in Europe, then GDPR is applied. So here GDPR says they have this particular principles. This principle talks about transparency. You need to basically ask the customer, what is the purpose of collecting data? So this is all is coming under the privacy of information. Again, data minimization. So you collect only minimum data. So this is again connected to PCI-DSS and other standards. Then where you store it, how you store it, are you encrypting it? Then integrity and confidentiality of the data and accountability. Like in case there's a breach, who is responsible? So GDPR has a very strong rules and fines or penalties. If a company is not going to follow that, they need to pay like 4% or something of their total income. Okay, gross income they need to pay. So it's like for big companies, it's in like in millions and billions also in for very big companies. So they are very much concerned about this and they want to follow that in letter and spirit, not just having a policy, but it's implemented. So now when you talk about this privacy laws and frameworks, in Canada, we have this PPDA, that's called Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act. So it's pretty old act, but now the government is the federal government is working on a new privacy law. Mostly, I think then since the new government is now taken over, they will be passing that particular law that is again connected to artificial intelligence and all other aspects which are there in today's world. So this talks about the 10 fair information principles. So some of them are connected to GDPR. And then we have the Quebec Law 25, which is basically, again, a privacy law. This is, again, more stricter than GDPR because here we have a non-compliance fine of, again, 25 million, like $15,000 to 25 million or 4% of companies' worldwide turnover. So it's, again, more stricter. And these are good for the company and for the customer, because ultimately if there is a data breach and if there is an incident, it's again affecting the reputation of the organization. They are basically going to have financial loss. So all these things can be overcome when you have a proper standard document which has all these things incorporated. Similarly, when an organization is in a healthcare sector, they need to follow this HIPAA, that is again connected to health insurance supportability for any clinic, hospitals and all medical related businesses. So now, having learned about all these things quickly, my question is, what do you think are the advantages? Okay, so what do you think are the advantages that basically is available for us when you apply, okay, this cybersecurity standard? So let me launch this particular poll. Just quickly, you can share your thoughts. So what do you think are the advantages of having cybersecurity standards, frameworks, and regulations from the organization's point of view? So imagine you're working in an organization or you're owning an organization. What do you think are the advantages of having these standards, following these standards? Okay, not just having that as a document, but first you need to prepare the document and then of course you need to have that. So you can share your thoughts and then yeah, let's see, there are some responses. Good. Security operations, okay. So as we go forward, you can post your thoughts, what you think, because the learning, the takeaway from that, from this session will be like how you're going to apply this, okay, in an organization, or how you're going to learn more and how you're going to think about this and upgrade yourself in this particular area. So now I like to quote saying from Benjamin Franklin, who's saying, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So this is a quote by Benjamin. He says that by failing to plan, you can say plan or prepare, okay? By failing to plan, you are planning to fail. So how can you plan? How can you prepare yourself from these threats that are happening? And yesterday, if some of you would have attended the session on complex systems, today's world is a complex world where there are a lot of systems interacting between each other. And if there is a small hiccup, or if there is a small bottleneck, or if there is an attack happening in one part, that has an impact everywhere. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we need to know how you can protect your organization. So that is what the second part, how you can protect your organizations from evolving cyber security threats. So one is, as we learned earlier, we talked about ISO 27001 implementation. So you can implement ISO 27001 in your organization, and your organization can get certification. So this is like a standard, right? So if you're following the standard, and when the organization meets the standard, and then you know that you are fulfilling the requirement, and of course you see that these particular threats can be overcome. And as I can see in the poll, a lot of you put standardization, reduce risk, and risk management, cybersecurity approach. Customer will trust you. Yes, of course, because see, when you are giving your credit card information to an online website, or when you are sharing your payment card details to a company or a shop or anything, anywhere, you trust that organization will take care of your information. They will not disclose that voluntarily or involuntarily. Okay, so they have systems within their organization to safeguard your payment card details. Now, of course, when you register in a website, you trust that they will not share your information, your email, your personal information for something else for which you didn't agree on. Okay, so all these things are covered by various frameworks and regulatory laws and acts. So we need to implement that. Organization needs to implement that so that employees and the customers can trust the organization. So here, when you look into ISO 27001, the certification involves, okay, stage one, you need to review your processes in an organization, how you're doing each and every activity, prepare documentations for that, and then you can have an internal audit in case you have. Then you have an verification, okay, audit by an external entity. So there are various organizations, they are certified by ISO, who can do the compliance audit. So once that audit is done, they say that your organization is ISO 27001 certified. So now when you talk about this advantages of this, imagine your company is quoting for a big project from government or from any other agencies. Then they may be looking for what are your cybersecurity policies. Are you following some standards? So when you show that, okay, I have this report, I have this ISMS document which we are following for our organization, then the government or the body which is giving you a project for some $1 million will be having the assurance that this company is following the industry standards. So maybe in some cases there may be a eligibility requirement also, you need to follow that. So that is the one thing. And again, there are situations where companies are fined. Okay, they are penalized for not following that because there is a lawsuit. So that we will talk about that in the coming slides also. So this is again an ongoing process where the assessments has to be done, and you need to update. Now, when you talk about NIST cybersecurity framework, so this is again not a standard. It's basically an framework where you have guidelines and you can prepare your own document. So this has steps like you define the scope. That is what is going to come under the cybersecurity policy, okay, which we are developing now. Like imagine there's a company which has 10 branches in 10 countries. Are you going to have the policy scope for all the 10 branches in 10 countries, or are you going to start with the branch or the office in Quebec? So that is going to define the scope. Again, when you talk about the office in Quebec, whether you're going to include all the departments or specific departments. So you define the boundary by this, and then you gather information and you prepare a profile. Okay, you prepare a current profile of the organization. That is the current cybersecurity posture profile of the organization. And then you also prepare a target profile. Okay, target like after 5 years or after 1 year or after a certain period, we want to be in this particular profile, or in this particular this systems we want to follow. This has to be implemented in the organization. So all those things you can think about in the target profile. And then in the step 2, you have the gap analysis. Okay, so this is very important. You do the gap analysis. So once you do the gap analysis, you know the difference between the current state and the target state. Okay, so we have a gap. So that gap becomes the action plan, what you need to do in order to go to that particular level, the target profile. So once you attain the target profile, again you plan and have another target profile, and this cycle goes on. So this is again done by the cybersecurity experts in the organization who are working, and different other people, they are in an organization. Now, going to the next standard, that is called the PCI-DSS assessment process. So here you have the scope of PCI-DSS is again defined, and then you perform the PCI-DSS on the environment. Okay, so the assessment is done. For example, if you read the document, so this PCI-DSS standard document is also free of cost. You can download it from their website, and you can see it's actually a 400-page document where you can it's given everything in detail. So as a cybersecurity person, you need to know some of the key aspects of that. If you are planning to implement DSS in your organization, or if you have any payment card related processes in your organization. Okay, and of course in most of the organization you have that. So in that case you need to implement that. So this particular document will have how you're going to assess it, what reports you're preparing for that. So imagine there is a report which says that you need to have a diagram of all the network routers that are connected in the organization's payment gate, like a payment. When there's a payment, like imagine in a bank, there is an area where the payment process is done. Okay, of course in a bank everywhere there is the process is there, and you can have a diagram which says that in that area, okay, in the billing area, there are point of sale terminals connected, computers connected. So all these things are connected to a Wi-Fi router or a particular network device. So what is the diagram of that? Whether that particular Wi-Fi is secure, whether that Wi-Fi devices are physically secure and logically secure, and how updated is the diagram. There was one instance where one of my friend, when he was doing this inspection, he said that when they went for the inspection of for this standard, they bought a diagram, but the diagram and the physical network were totally different. Okay, so this is again a situation where it's not about making the employee struggle to do the particular process. It's about the company following the standard so that they don't end up in a problematic situation. They will not end up in a situation where they have to pay fines. There was an instance of TJX supply chain cybersecurity instance where a lot of payment card details were hacked, and then finally that company, okay, the marshals and all these things are connected to that company. They had to pay like millions, like around 40 million fine for the various legal lawsuits that were filed on that particular company. So simple thing, see, small thing, but it has a huge impact. So the compliance has to be done in letter and spirit, and it's not to trouble anybody in the organization to do all these things, but for the sake of the company, for the sake of the growth of the company, for the sake of the future of the company, all these things has to be done. And then you submit a document to the PCI Security Standard Council, and then they approve it and they certify it. So once that is done, in case there are some pitfalls or some things that needs to be updated, that needs to be addressed. So these are some of the standards and how you can secure an organization. So in this short time, what we discussed is we talked about cybersecurity standards and frameworks. Specifically, we talked about ISO 27001 and 2, and we talked about NIST cybersecurity. We talked about PCI DSS standard. We talked about GDPR. We talked about PIPADA and the law 25. So all these things are again helping organizations to safeguard their data so that it is good for their organization. And again, organizations can use this standards and frameworks to prepare their information security management system policy documents so that is failure proof. And again, following these standards depends upon the organization. There are various factors, the nature of their business. If they are in a medical field, they need to comply with HIPAA and other rules. And again, there are other rules for acts for like financial organizations. Then depending upon the size of the organization and the location of the organization, like if in a company is in Quebec, they need to follow the Quebec laws, cybersecurity laws and other thing. Apart from if in case they have customers in Europe, they need to follow the GDPR and other laws. So it depends upon the size of the organization, the location of the organization, the need and their nature of business. And again, I'm going back to the quote which I mentioned in the beginning. A chain is only strong as its weakest link. So an organization's cybersecurity posture is strong as its weakest link. So all processes, all internal systems has to be secure in order to have a cyber safe world where all organizations can work seamlessly in incorporating their mission and vision. So with this, I conclude, and these are some of the references. And I would like to add one more thing. There will be an online info session, Get to Know SCS, that is on May 15th. And there's one session at 12 p.m., another at 6 p.m. So you will be knowing more about the SCS programs and courses and the admission requirements and also the fee details and all these things. So once again, I thank you all for joining today, and I will look into a few of the chats to address some of the questions. And you can also reach out to me in my email address. So I will share that in the chat. Okay, so let me put my email ID in the chat, and you can also reach out to me. Okay, so let's see specific questions.
I'll jump in. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Mault. That was phenomenal. But towards the beginning, you spoke about backups, and one of the attendees, Ziad, asked, how often should we have backups, or does it depend on the information stored and the size of the organization?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. And see, backups are taken in a situation where it depends upon the threat and the criticality of the data that is there. So imagine a bank. So in a bank, it's like the information is changing each second, each minute or each second. So imagine you have a backup taken at 12:51. Now, if you take a backup at 12:52, in this 1 minute, there will be a lot of transactions that happen. So it depends upon the nature of business, one, and the criticality of the information that is being stored in these systems. Now imagine, for example, McGill and other education institutions, again, in the daytime, there are a lot of transactions, but in the nighttime, you don't have much of the registrations. But again, there are some registration happening. So, but in a bank or another, like if you consider a bank which is global, an international bank, so it's like 24 hours people are doing transactions. So again, like I can give an instance where in an airline where one of my friend was working earlier, they had a backup for like hourly backup. But that also was not good because what happened was like after 1 hour, when they were able to, when there was a ransomware attack and they were able to restore the backup, but still they lost lot of transactions. And what happened is when you recover also, you need to make sure that you are able to recover the latest, because the backups has to happen simultaneously in multiple parts. Then only you will be able to stop the system and then recover it and then move forward. Otherwise, what happens is, like if there was a attack at 12 and at 1 o'clock you are trying to recover the system, then between 12 and 1, maybe some information is lost, somebody made a payment and then something went wrong. So you may have an inconsistent state. Okay, so the system may go to an inconsistent state. So what I suggest is, it depends upon the nature of business, nature of the data that is stored. It's always good to have backups which are simultaneously done. Like big organization, like they, when they store some data, it's stored in 10 places at the same time. So if the system fails, then all these copies are having the latest versions. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. A few more questions are trickling in. So here's one from Nicholas. What key factors should a company or government organization consider when deciding between developing in-house software and adopting an external solution? And I guess the second part, where should they draw the line between these options? For example, operating system in government organizations such as Linux or Windows.
Yeah, that's a good question, because large organizations are, and even governments are outsourcing their processes outside. So there is a cybersecurity framework for that. That is called the SOC 2. Okay, SOC, where basically it's focused on the outsourcing processes that needs to be cyber secure. So like imagine, like even if you consider McGill, and if you have some supply chain vendors who are accessing our system, and if their access or if their systems are not secure, and that ultimately will affect us. So whenever, like when you talk about government or other organization who are deciding to go outside their for development, like if you are doing in-house, you are worried about only the security of your organization. So if you see we are implementing ISO, we are having NIST, we are having all these standards followed, then okay, fine. You can say that you are secure. Now, when you are involving outsider into your organization to accomplish a particular task, then we need to make sure that that agency or the outsourced organization also fulfills the similar levels of compliance. Otherwise, what happens is, again, it just becomes a weakest link. Like the quote, the weakest link may come from outside, even though our systems are more secure.
Okay. So piggybacking off that just a little bit, but a little bit to the side, is from Magda, the great question. Which jurisdiction of law are enforced if there's multiple locations in an attack? So what would be in general, the jurisdiction, what law would apply if they're coming at you from different areas?
Yeah, so it's again not based on the attack from where it's coming. It's based on who is getting impacted by that. Okay, so imagine I have a business in Quebec and all my customers are in Quebec. And if anything goes wrong, if somebody is going to file a case, they'll be filing only in Quebec. And then if I am following Quebec law, and if I can justify that I followed everything in spite of using the latest standards and all this stuff, still there is a new, like there is a thing called 0-day exploit, like nobody knows how to fix that. Like imagine Microsoft released a new software and within a few minutes, there was an attacker using that new version to attack the organization. So that is called the 0-day exploit. That means nobody knows about that particular vulnerability. So they use that vulnerability to enter into the organization. So if that is the case, and you say that you followed all the standards applicable to Quebec, and now a customer is filing a case saying that my data has been breached, you can justify that we followed everything, but this is a 0-day exploit which happened just yesterday, and even Microsoft or big companies are not having solution. So we are not going to pay fine, or we can't pay the fine. So you can argue that. However, now imagine all these standards, frameworks, regulation, laws are there, and you didn't follow that. And imagine you have some customers to whom you're selling in Europe. Okay, so if you are following, if the customer is from Europe, then you need to also follow GDPR, because your entities, your customer is belonging to Europe. So in that case, you can't say that, okay, I didn't know that GDPR is applicable to me. You can't give that excuse, because it's clearly said that if anybody is residing in Europe is going to be your customer or supplier or whatever it is, then you need to fulfill that law. So that is one thing. Again, about data security, where you keep your data. That again, the local law. See, first of all, if an organization is in Quebec, then they need to fulfill all the laws that are there in Quebec. That is the inner circle, we can say. And then because Quebec is in Canada, most of the things that are applicable to Canada, because some customers may be in Canada. However, now following other countries' law, it depends upon whether you have a business connection with them or not.
I am scanning just to see if I missed anything. Okay. I think it was a lot. You covered a lot.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, so like Zaya said, depends upon the where the company is and where the data is stored. Again, see, like you have regulations where the data is stored also. Like now you don't have in-premises storage, right? Data are stored in the cloud. And we talk about cloud security. See, we have our one more micro credential where we talk about cloud security. So the data that is stored in the cloud, how it is going to be secure, and whether the law allows you to store in different parts of the world, whether you can store it in a cloud that is there in Germany or in Australia. If the law says that you need to put it only within, like the citizen data has to be kept only within Canada, then you need to have a cloud data center in Canada or in Quebec where you're going to store data. And if you're not doing that, and if that compliance is not met, then you may be penalized for that. Okay, that's great. I see a lot of thanks. So it was wonderful to meet all of you, and you can always reach out to me in case you have any questions. And this course, basically, this is a course in our applied cybersecurity program that covers in detail about most of the things we talked about.